Hi there, guys. Today I'm going to talk about some really helpful stuff to get you started as a writer, and some stuff that was really helpful for me and inspired me to become a writer. First off, obviously, is The Hobbit, which is by Mr. Tolkien. Absolutely wonderful writer, and wrote more stuff than I could probably ever think of in a lifetime, maybe. Um, I had this book read to me aloud by my father when I was probably about 6 to 8 years old, in between one of those summers. And somehow in the back of my brain, I decided that Mr. Smog the dragon was not as horrifying as he should be, and that dragons were friendly fellow creatures. And I just kind of kept that idea in the back of my brain, which actually inspired the first book that I've been working on. It's incomplete as of this point. I finished it and now I'm re-editing. But anyway, that one was a really big inspiration that kind of got me going. And then I really didn't have any official proper training as a writer. I just kind of went along what I thought. And I did read a lot when I was younger, but I sort of stopped that around my teenage years and when it became a little bit more disorienting for me to read. And I also really didn't like anybody else's writing. I kind of would get annoyed and go, I can do this better. So I would sit down and write my own stuff. I used to be to the point where I would pick up a book, read 2 or 3 sentences, and all of a sudden have to sit down and write like 30 pages. I've done that several times in my life, and there's a cat. Hello, Siegfried. This is Siegfried. Siegfried is my kitty. He has nothing to do with writing, but he says hi. Here, stay over there. Or at least, keep your tail out of my light. Anyway. Come on. You're in the way. Shoo. Anyway, so I'm going to kind of talk about the first book that actually made me go, oh my gosh, I'm doing this right. Because I always wondered when I was younger that, am I really doing this right? I have no idea what I'm doing. And he keeps trying to come over and say hi. You want to say hi to all the nice people? Okay. He's going to say hi to you. But, and sniff me. So, I want to talk about Bird by Bird, which is by Annie Lamott. I think I'm saying that right. I'll post all the links and stuff in the bottom. It is hilarious. She's actually a comedy writer who went through quite a lot of stuff in her lifetime already. And, Siegfried, you're really no help. And, next time I think I'm going to shut my door. She basically kind of was the first person that I ever bumped into as a book author that I was like, oh my goodness, this person has all the feelings and thoughts that I do, which is, things about drive and things about character and wanting and desire to write. And I mean, my father had that too. He was a professional screenwriter for many years. He wrote for All My Children and Guiding Light and actually won an Emmy for the All My Children writing. He did that about 10 years, and I grew up in that. When I was younger, I would sit and watch him write for hours and just sort of decided, hey, I should do this too. So I would sit down and work for hours next to him. Or at least probably what I thought in my mind was hours. It was probably like 25 minutes. But anyway, so Bird by Bird is a wonderful book. It's a little darker. It's pretty dark humor. So if you're younger, if you're thinking about maybe the ages of like 12 or 13 are a little young for this book, I would wait maybe until you're probably got a 15-year-old. I think I read this when I was maybe 15 or 16, maybe a little older. Actually, no, this book was a college book. I read this my first year of college, I think. So, very good book. Very dark, but extremely hilarious and made me suddenly go, oh my god, I understand. Other things that have been very inspirational, like this cat. He's very inspirational. He likes to sit with me when I write. Shoo, come on, buddy. Go away. Other really cool things that inspired me is, some of you guys know I'm a comic artist. I draw comics. I don't really have anything up, published, or anything like that right now, but it was a huge passion and still is. And I love to read comic books, partly because I enjoy the words and picture scenario kind of things. One really, really good book is actually a Disney book. It's called The Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck by Don Rosa. And he is actually allowed to sort of do the backstory of Scrooge McDuck, who is the old cranky guy in DuckTales, who's the uncle who has all this money. And, for a while, he just he's an adventurer and how he has been, and I love adventure stories, and this was one of the big things where I was like, oh, this is cool. I really love the idea of this. So that sort of helped to fuel the adventure themes in my stories, I think. Another really good one that started this was more started my comics, but I really love MegaTokyo. It was very old. I think it's finally done. Finished maybe a couple years ago finally, but I'll post all the links to that. It is started as a very first webcomic, one of the very first guys to do it. He was actually an architect, but he decided, I'm going to draw some comics, and then it just sort of ate his soul, and he had to continue doing it, or people would revolt. So that was another big inspiration that I had as far as books and writing. I kind of realized that you can have a sequential story, both with pictures and writing, kind of like children's books do. Okay, so now we're going to talk about my favorite stuff and some of the scariest stuff you will ever have to do as a writer. Okay, say you've finally finished your book, and you're sitting there and going, I did a good job. I have 300 pages, or 200 pages, or I have 28 pages of a children's book, or 46 pages of a children's book. Cool. And then we get into the portion of, oh boy, now I have to publish this thing. Well then, what do I do? Best thing that you can possibly do is there are 2 books, particularly in the genre of children's books. One of them is an overall, one of them is specifically children's and illustration books. Is the 2013 Guide to Literary Agents, and then the 2013 Children's Writers and Illustrations Market Book. Looks like this. This is backwards, I'm sorry. That was the agents. This is the children's market. What these books contain are not only lovely articles by people who have been published talking about how they've gotten published, etc. It also contains all of the literary agents, all of the publishers out there in the world that might be interested in you. These are international, so they cover whole fields, all the world. So kind of no matter where you are, they're useful to have. They are really cool, but they're really scary sometimes, where I look at them and just kind of go, I'll do that later. And that's partly because I feel I'm not necessarily ready as a writer to get it out there. Another extremely great source is something called SCBWI, and I don't know who named this, but you guys have the longest name like ever. It's the Society of Children's Writers and Illustrators. And it's a worldwide, and they do lots of different conferences, lots of different places. I've been a member of it for almost 2 years now, if not longer. I think almost 2.5. And then every month we have a writer's meet where all of us kind of get together and we all geek out about writing, and everybody has their stuff critiqued. This can be kind of interesting because not everyone's gotten books published. In fact, I think most people don't have books published, but they're all trying to, which is good, so at least we're all trying. I've actually had my stuff read by professional editors from that place, and I've gone to 2 of their conferences. One of them was in Florida, one of them was in New York City, and that one was beyond incredible. I'm probably going to talk more about that eventually, but they're a great source for kind of community as far as a writer. They do have forums, they're hard to find, I can post those links too. Also, that's the other nice thing about them is they are a community, so you can kind of ask questions and go, hey, how do you do this? And if you go to the conferences, which, to be perfectly honest, for a conference, aren't bad. I mean, the New York one was major. But they also give you the great advantage of bumping into an editor or an agent that you might need to talk to or want to talk to. When I first did my first one, it was very frightening because I was nowhere near ready to be published at all, and was panicking the entire time. The second one was even bigger, and it was very frightening as well, but I felt I was a lot more ready to submit my work, which I did. I submitted it to 2 different companies, and unfortunately I got them both back with rejections, but 2 rejection letters here, and none to go, you know? So I will just keep going and keep doing it. It's also, like, they have smaller ones usually that are, like, particularly if you live in the US, they have ones that are split up between regions, and different conferences happen in different places. So, yeah. I'm going to put all those links in the bottom. I hope this was helpful, and I hope the cat entertained you guys. He'll probably come back. I'm sure he does. Anyway, have a great day. Bye.